Hobbie here. I'm so excited for the holiday season, and if you're like me, you like to cook for your family as a way to serve, and all the recipes that you can find on the internet, nothing's better than making your own. So I'm going to share with you a recipe that I just love. And I'd love for you to click that subscribe button, hit that bell so you get notifications, and comment down below. I want to know, what are your favorite holiday traditions in the kitchen? So today we're going to be making a stuffing. And a lot of you know the classic stuffing that comes in the box or the bag. And it's basically breadcrumbs with some seasoning. You melt some butter, add some water, let it cook. I've actually seen over the years, I've looked at a ton of different recipes, and I found some different things that I like and my family just loves and enjoys. So today we're going to be starting off warming up our pan. We've got a little bit of extra virgin olive oil in there and Italian sausage. A little dash of nature seasoning. It's great all-purpose seasoning. You'll also want to be sure to coat your dish with either extra virgin olive oil, ham, butter, anything that you prefer so that things don't stick, because this, when it bakes, is going to take a little while and will start to bake along the edges, and that makes a big mess for cleaning. So as this starts, I do want to share with you that I don't get sponsorship from any of the manufacturer supply companies as far as the food goes, but I do have an Amazon list. So I've been saving different tools and utensils that I'm using. So if you find something interesting, the list will be in the link below. This is a trapper tool, and what's wonderful about it is it breaks apart the meat. So then you're not having to sit there with your spatula chopping away, which is what I did for years. You want to just let that sizzle and start to brown. And while that's happening, we just set that aside for a minute, you want to prepare some of the vegetables that you'll need for this dish. Have a nice knife available. We're going to be cutting up some celery and some garlic. And I lost the garlic, but that's fine. We'll just use two this time. So when you cut celery, you can either cut it this direction, which tends to get wobbly, or you can cut it this direction. So I prefer to cut it with the round side facing upward, so that way it doesn't wobble about. And I'm just going to slice this right down the middle. I've already washed these. And then you want to just make some nice thin, not paper thin, but give yourself a few centimeters space in between. Because what you want when you have the nice stuffing, the breading's going to get soft with the different ingredients that we're putting in there. You need a little bit of crunch. So that's what we're doing with the onion, the celery. We're going to add some flavor to that meat with the onion and garlic. So once I have this cut, I like to use 3 celery stalks, not too big. Just break those apart real nice. We're going to actually put that in this container. The very first thing I do is I add my breadcrumbs. This particular one is herb seasoned. So it's using wheat breads blended with herbs and spices. You're going to see that takes up a lot of space, but as things start to settle in here, it's going to even itself out really nice. Now this celery can just go right on top. And I actually prefer to scoop it on down, so I'm going to show you what that looks like here as well. There's a lot of different techniques that people use to cut. I have tiny fingers with carpal tunnel, so what some people will do is this method where you go along and there's no way to actually cut off the tip of your finger in this particular case. I like to have a good handle on mine, so I'm just going to go ahead and chop away. Just make sure you're as safe as you possibly can be when using cutlery in the kitchen. You'll also want to use some sort of a mitt, because if you're using a lid that has a metal top, it's going to be hot. And you don't want to burn yourself while you touch that. So you see it's chopping, it's really browning up very, very nice. I'm actually going to get an additional spoon to scrape off some of the uncooked meat. Get it right back in the pan because we are going to flip this here in just a moment. Continue to break it apart. I like to break it apart in a really granular level as much as possible. I mean, minced would be really too thin. So ground Italian sausage is perfect. It's already got the perfect seasoning. And when you break it apart, just use that wrist. And as you turn and push, it really separates the meat out. So it's not just clumps. We're going to go ahead and flip this. I currently have it on medium heat. It'll take maybe 10 to 12 minutes in most cases to cook. I actually upped the temperature on this a little bit, so it's going to go a lot faster. All right, so cook even. I'm going to finish cutting up the celery here. Now just take your board and scoop it on in. To prepare the onion and the garlic, there's a lot of different ways you can cut onion. I've seen a lot of different professionals do it. I found that the best way is to keep an end intact. So you cut off one end instead of both, which I've always grew up to do. And then you want to take off the exterior skin. You can do that in a variety of ways. You can cut through that thin layer and start to peel back. But you'll notice I'm not taking it all the way off the onion. And this is valuable because I'm going to be using these parts to also hold the onion still as I'm cutting it. As always, any extra materials and scraps from your vegetables that you're not using in your dish, you want to put in your compost bin so that can marinate over season. So I've seen a lot of different methods. I've shown you some different methods before. In this particular case, I'm going to show you this other method, in which case I'm just going to chop on down. Going along the grain. Now you can either choose to cut this way or this way. So I'm going to do a combination of both. And what you'll see is these start to break apart into really nice edible sizes. So both ways work great, just depends on how big of pieces you want. Remember, you want a little bit of that caramelization in the meat as well as in the stuffing itself. You don't want to use an onion that's too terribly large, although this is almost too many. I might actually save some of these for another dish that I'm going to do. But in the meantime, the Italian sausage is ready. So I'm going to use my strainer. We're going to get out some of the fats and then brown the rest of it with the onions and the garlic. So you'll see I've still got some juices in the pan. That'll work as a nice conduit. Now, because I might use half of this onion for a different dish, I'm just going to go ahead and brown the entire thing. I like to use butter when I brown and caramelize onions. Totally up to you. I'm actually going to grab another piece of garlic. I already have a tablespoon out. This is my version of tablespoon. Now for the garlic, actually before we do the garlic, we're going to season this up a little bit. Out. Hear the sizzle, it's lovely. The nice thing is it will have the nice flavor of the Italian sausage and some of the fats from that as well. I don't claim myself to be a 100% healthy cooker. I do believe in good flavor. All right, so now we're going to go to the garlic. You can sit there and try to really take off the paper. One of the tools I like to use is called a garlic mincing tool, and you stick the round part in the base and push down. Now when you do this, you're going to want to have a spoon handy to scrape off excess. So what you'll notice here, when I push it out, you'll see the garlic starting to come out of the press. The rest of it kind of likes to stick there. So I'll use this tool, take it off. Then you'll see the garlic's on that. You can just use your spoon to remove it. And for this recipe, we're going to use 3 garlic cloves. You can also use the tip of the spoon to take the garlic out, the remaining garlic, if you prefer. Okay, so it's really starting to go nicely. Just let that caramelize for a moment. Oh, the smells here are awesome. Wish you could smell it. And I think I am just going to use half of the onion. So while we're waiting for that, we're going to add some of the different flavors to this combination. First of all, we're going to add our Italian sausage. I like to use a can of cream of celery soup. This one is 10.5 ounces. You do not have to use a can. Some people just don't like that. That's totally fine. Totally up to you. There's no judgment here. What I like about this pre-made can is it's got all the nice flavors and just the right amount of salt that I need and that I'm looking for in the stuffing. Now you'll see the can calls for water, and I actually do not prefer to add water, so I'm going to use a chicken broth. You can obviously make your own chicken broth. And I'm going to do 1 cup at a time. The purpose of this is to help the thickness of the soup reduce down enough so that way those flavors get in that breading. And do another and see where we go from there. Before I add any more, I'm going to add the garlic and the onions, and then we'll start stirring it together and look at the consistency of what we're wanting. Some people like a really dry stuffing. Others like it very moist. Totally whatever fits you and your family the best. Like I mentioned, I was going to leave some there, use for a recipe later. So we're just going to go ahead. It's awkward. It's awkward to stir this together, but just be patient and turn. You'll obviously want to have a bigger container if you've got one. This does make quite a bit of food. A lot of the recipes I make will feed up to 6, but stuffing is one of those sides that not everyone likes. So this could feed a group of up to 8 or 12, depending on how many people like stuffing. And hopefully, if you try out some of these flavors in your stuffing, that it will become a new family favorite. This is going to be ready to cook. So here we have our beautiful stuffing. Thank you so much for trying it out. What you can do if you're making this ahead of time and you want to save it for your special holiday, you can place it foil on top, or you can use the lid. I don't recommend cooking it with the lid on. I recommend cooking it open in the oven. Either shelf is fine. Just make sure the shelf is big enough for the size of your dish. 350 degrees for 30 to 45 minutes. What you'll want to do after the first 20 minutes, open that oven, mix everything up. So it's just not the top that's got the crunch. You want to get that all mixed together. And you can do that a few different times if you cook for up to 45 minutes. But you probably won't need to cook it that long. We are in Colorado altitude, so our cooking times and ovens are going to be different than yours probably if you're in a different state. So I hope you have a wonderful holiday, get to enjoy time with your family, any loved ones that you get to see, and just remember, let's have fun in the kitchen. Let's get creative, think outside of the box, because if we're not having fun, we're doing it wrong. Cheers, my friends. Let's be awesome in all things we do. I hope you enjoy this recipe, and I look forward to your comments, ringing that bell, and subscribing so we can continue to cook together. Bye.